So we start here in line 919, and the subject is Aeneas. So Aeneas, and the main verb is koruskat, which means shakes or brandishes. So Aeneas brandishes his fatale telum. Now fatale means death-bringing, deadly, lethal, although it might also have the idea of being associated with fate. So you could say fateful or fatal or something. So his fateful or fatal spear, telum, and he brandishes it literally, well, we have cunctanti, which is a dative present participle, to the one hesitating, or for the one hesitating, which would be turnus. So I translated cunctanti as he hesitates. In other words, while Turnus is hesitating, Aeneas is brandishing his spear. Okay, so as he, Turnus, hesitates, Aeneas brandishes his fateful spear. Sortitus. Now, sortitus is the perfect participle from sortior, sortiri, which is a deponent verb. And sortitus here means something like to choose or select. So sortitus means having chosen, choosing, fortuna. So literally that means fortune. I think here it means something like the opportune moment, the right moment. So having chosen the opportune moment or seeing a favourable chance with his eyes, oculis, ablative plural, and he intorquet, he throws it or hurls it, and we have to imagine the telum again as the subject, eminus, from far away, and then we have the ablative phrase corpore toto, and that means with his whole body. And then Virgil says, never, numquam, never do stones, saxa, plural of the neuter noun saxum, never do stones, concita, having been stirred up, having been thrown, basically, by a tormento murali. Okay, a tormentum means a siege engine, right? A big mechanism like a battering ram or something that's designed for laying siege to a city. And muralis is an adjective that means to do with a wall, right? To do with so the noun murus has an adjective muralis associated with it. So muralis means something like used to attack or defend the walls of a city. So never do stones hurled by a siege engine for attacking walls. That's the meaning of murali, for attacking walls. So never do those stones fremunt sic, roar thus, roar in this way. In other words, the roar of Aeneas' spear is so loud that it's even louder than a kind of battering ram, basically. This is a bit of hyperbole or exaggeration from Virgil. And then he makes another comparison, nor nec do tanti crepitus, such great crashings, literally, or clatterings, or something like that, dissultant, literally that means leap apart. So dissultant you could translate as burst from, or something, burst from a fulmine, so ablative from a fulmen, from a thunderbolt in English. So, nor do such great clatterings burst from a thunderbolt. So, in other words, the rushing sound of Aeneas' spear is louder than a battering ram and louder than thunder as well. Okay, the spear. So in the next sentence, hasta is the subject. The spear flies, volat. It flies. Then you have this word instar. Instar here is being used as an adverb, meaning on a par with, i.e. as swiftly as, and it takes genitive. So as swiftly as an atri turbinis, a black whirlwind. Right? It's a bit like in English you could say the image of a black whirlwind. You know how people say he's the spitting image of his mother or something, of his father. It's that idea, right? The image of a black whirlwind. So the spear flies as swiftly as a black whirlwind. That's the kind of idea. Fereins, now it's a present participle, means carrying, and it's describing the spear. So the spear is carrying dirum exitium, dire destruction, or fearful destruction, and it recludit, literally recludit means opens up, but I think here it means sort of pierces or passes through the oras, the edges of his breastplate, lorikai, of his breastplate, and it pierces the extremos orbis. That means something like the remotest circles, the outside circles, or the remotest circles of his septemplicis clipei, of his 7-layered shield. So it's a shield with 7 layers. Okay, so we need to go back over a couple of points there. Firstly, oras. Yes, oras are the edges. Although in English you could say the edge, singular, if you want to. That might make more sense in some ways. And then the extremos, literally that means furthest. So it's not quite clear whether that means furthest in the sense of outermost, right, the layers, further away from Turnus, or whether it means the furthest in the sense of the furthest away from the spear, the ones closest to Turnus. So the meaning of that is not quite clear. In my translation, I put the outside circles. The commentary says that the remotest layers for extremos orbis, orbis, by the way, is accusative plural. It would be orbes in prose. So the commentary thinks that extremos refers to the layers closest to Turnus's body, rather than the ones on the outside. So you could say the remotest layers. Even that, I think, in English keeps it a bit ambiguous. But anyway, that's a little bit vague. Okay, so we'll go on. Stridens, that's another present participle. That means sort of whizzing. So whizzing, it goes across, transit, it goes. In fact, the preposition following that is per. So you could say for transit, it goes through, per, the medium femur, the middle of his thigh. Medium femur. So that's per plus accusative. Okay, and then the subject of the next sentence is ingens turnus, huge Turnus. Incidit, sank down. And the in part of it means he sort of yielded to, or you could say sank under the ictus, that means the blows, although in English we might make it singular, the blow, and he sank ad terram, to the ground. And then here we have, with duplicato popliter, that is an ablative absolute. Literally, it means with his knee having been doubled. His knee sort of doubled over. So in English, we might say something like with his knees bent, or something like that. I put on bended knee in my translation. Okay, and then we go on to line 9 to 8, and now the focus switches for a moment away from Turnus and to his men, to his soldiers. So the subject of this sentence is rutuli, the rutulians. Consurgunt, they rise to their feet, basically. They stand up with a groan, gemitu, ablative case, with a groan. And quae, the whole mountain, the totus mons, remugit, sort of re-echoes, or something like that. There's a mistake in my translation there. I put re-echo, but because the mountain is singular, it should be re-echoes. So you need to add an es on the end of re-echo in the translation. Re-echoes all around circum, or roundabout, and at the high groves, the alta nemora, remitunt, send back, the vocem, literally the voice, or that you could say the sound, late. Now late is an adverb that means widely or broadly. In my translation I put on all sides. Okay, and then we go into line 930. Okay, he, ille, and that refers to Turnus, he, as a humilis suplex. Humilis means lowly, right? That's where we get the word humility from in English. It's related to the Latin word meaning the ground. So for example, humi in Latin means on the ground. So he, as a lowly suplex, a suplex is a suppliant, right? Someone who's begging for mercy, basically. So he, as a lowly suppliant, and then we have another present participle, protendens. Literally, it means sort of stretching forth. The problem is that you can't really use in English the same verb for your eyes and your hand. So the verb protendens in Latin is agreeing with or is referring to oculos and dextram, but in English we probably have to translate it one way with oculos and a different way with dextram. So with oculos, I would say raising, or something like that. So raising his eyes, protendens oculos. And stretching out his right hand, protendens again, dextram. And the right hand is described as precantem. Now, I actually missed out that word precantem in my translation, so you need to add that in after. What I would do here is I would say, in the translation, after right hand, I would say stretching out his right hand in entreaty, right? In being one word, and the second word being entreaty, entreaty, which means in a begging way, right? Begging for mercy. Literally, precantem is a present participle agreeing with dextram. So literally it means he's stretching forth his praying or begging right hand. But that doesn't necessarily work very well. So I would say stretching out his right hand in entreaty, he says, in quit, truly, equidem, truly or indeed, merui, I have earned it. Okay, I have earned it. Nor, nec, or and not, nor do I deprecor. That's a deponent verb meaning to complain. right? Nor am I complaining. Or you could say, and I do not complain. Now it's worth just commenting for a moment on that word merui, when he says, I have deserved it, I've earned it. He's not saying, this is not a moral point, okay? Turnus is not saying, I am guilty, I have done bad things, therefore I should be punished for my sin, right? This is not a kind of Christian notion of sin deserving punishment or something like that. It's not that. What he's referring to, not the rules of morality, but the rules of war, right? So he's saying, you have defeated, I challenged you to single combat, and I have lost, and therefore, by the rules of war, I deserve to die. Right? So it's not to do with morality and sin and punishment, it's just to do with the rules of war, basically. Right? I have challenged you to single combat, I have lost, and therefore now the right thing to do, according to the rules of war, is that I should die. Okay? So that's the sense in which he deserves to die, not a moral sense. Okay. Then he speaks again, and he says, utere. Okay, now utor, uti, usus sum is a deponent verb meaning to use. To use. And here, this is the deponent form of an imperative. So he's saying use, or you could say take advantage of, or exploit, tua sorte. So utor, this verb takes ablative, that's why tua and sorte are ablative, and tua sorte means something like your chance, right? So he's basically saying, take your chance, use your chance, take advantage of your opportunity, something like that. Sors means sort of your lot, right? The thing that fate or chance has given you. So use your chance. And he then says, si, that means if qua cura, if any care, and then this takes genitive, if any care of a wretched parent, miseri parentis. In English, we'd probably not use the genitive there, we'd probably take a more dative route. In English, we'd probably say, if any care for a wretched parent. And that's how I translated it. So in my translation, I said for, but in Latin, it's genitive. If any care for a wretched parent is able, potest, to touch you, tangere te, and tangere means touch in the sense of emotionally touch you or move you. Okay? If any care for a wretched parent can touch you, he says, I beg you, oro. There's no word for you here, by the way, I've just sort of added it in, or I suppose I've repeated te from here. I beg you. Now, I'm going to skip the brackets for a moment and then come back to it at the end. So, I beg you to, so here we have the infinitive, I beg you to miserere. Okay. In fact, sorry, that's not. It's not actually an infinitive. It's an imperative. So he says, "I beg you, have pity on." Okay. So, have pity on miserere. That's another deponent imperative. Have pity on, and it takes genitive. So, have pity upon the senecta. That means the old age. Have pity on the old age of Dornus. So Dornus is genitive, meaning of Dornus. That's Turnus's father. And, that's et, give back, redde, that's another imperative, give back me, give me back, meis, to my people, dative plural, give me back to my people, meis, meaning my family, my people, my Italians, right? That sort of thing. So give me back to my people. And then seu means or if. right? So, or if you prefer, Marvis, or if you prefer, and then we have to imagine, give back, so supply red debt again, give back my body, corpus, spoliatum is a PPP, having been deprived of, and it takes ablative, having been deprived of light, lumina. And here light is really an image for life, right? So Virgil could have written vita instead of lumina. So my body deprived of life. Okay, so he's saying, I beg you, Oro, pity the old age of Dornus and give back me to my people, or if you prefer, give back, red debt again, my corpus, my body, having been stripped of light, having been deprived of life. Okay, and now just before we finish, we need to look at the brackets here. He says, Anchises, now that's Aeneas' father, Anchises was also, fuit et, was also, talis genitor, such a father, the same kind of father, for you. Right? So what he's saying is, you know what it's like to have an old father who relies on you and doesn't want to see you die, or at least if you do die, wants to be able to bury your body. And therefore, since you would want other people to have pity on your father, Anchises, you should have pity on my father, Dornus. And therefore, you should either give me back to my people alive, or you should kill me and give my body back, my dead body back to my people. So he's saying, please don't kill me and keep the body, put it on display in the Trojan camp or something like that. So he's saying, please have some respect for my father. Either let me live and look after my father Dornus in his old age, or at least give him back my dead body so that he can give it a proper burial. Okay? And then, yes, that takes us up to Mais in line 936. And so the next section will start with Vicisti and will actually take us up to the very end of the Aeneid.